The Shepherds of UR-SHULGI, an organization created by UR-SHULGI himself to spread the laws and the word of Hakeim to the world. The 12 heralds he appointed would root out domains, bring apostates to heel, and reclaim the blood. The world may not see them as a threat. The world may not know they even exist. But with such an ancient and powerful being at its helm, it is only a matter of time before the shepherds usher in a new age. The age of blood. The age of judgment. No apostate will be left. No Canaanite will be without retribution. Firstly, to be a productive member, you will need to understand the hierarchy and flow of our precious worship, along with a bit of history. Oh, don't give me that look. I can assure you, the history lesson is needed so you may better understand your place among us. What, did you think that the 12 heralds were the only Canaanites that were a part of this Shepherds of UR-SHULGI movement? No. It goes much deeper than that. UR-SHULGI appointed 12 heralds to stand atop of the mountain, as it were. These heralds are the supreme authority, aside from UR-SHULGI himself. UR-SHULGI has, for the past decade, been absent on a journey of power, so these great heralds command us. They were appointed by UR-SHULGI himself to never be replaced. These heralds are the 12 heralds, and there shall be no others. It is said, but not confirmed, that these heralds are powerful, old, and silly, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were some elders thrown in there. After all, they were chosen by UR-SHULGI himself, and they are not to be replaced. You would think he would want Canaanites potent enough to keep their stations. It is also said that the great Thutmose, Caliph of the clan, and sire to Fatima al-Faqadi, has faithfully sided with UR-SHULGI amongst the schism. Perhaps he is amongst the heralds as under a different name. The heralds are ever drifting in a sense. Amidst the genesis of the shepherds, the heralds were tasked with spreading across the globe and acquiring converts, mainly from the dispossessed of our clan, and if you can believe it, caitiffs and thin bloods, all while doling out retribution to the betrayers, schismatics, and apostates. You see, part of the job is to return the blood of the unworthy back into the fold. And what better way to do that than, you guessed it, imbibing upon the hearts of the unworthy Canaanites that deserve judgment. The heralds at this time prominently sought out and guided converts in the diablerie of Ashira specifically, and schismatic Assamites. Initially, the sword was the go-to method for conversions. You either agreed or you were dealt with. Any who did not stand by the laws of Hakeim were nothing. This did not result in the effective conversion rates UR-SHULGI wished for, however. The heralds were not so subtle in their actions and were subsequently hunted by many kindred in the domains they infected. From all sects, the Camarilla, Sabbat, Anarchs, Autarchus. This back and forth stonewalled the shepherds' recruitment process. So, more subtle manipulative tactics were set to be executed, lest the shepherds be stamped out before they had a chance to truly grow. Slow conversion, displays of potential for newly converted, and targeting other dispossessed of kindred society more aggressively were methods enacted to bolster our numbers, particularly thin bloods and caitiff, as previously mentioned. These methods, however, would take time to bear fruit, and the 12 heralds were just not enough to effectively perform this directive. There isn't even any concrete knowledge on how many heralds are actually still with us. I only know of 5 that can be reached. I've heard of at least 2 that have fallen and returned to the mountain forever. So with this, the Shepherds expanded out of necessity. The heralds would appoint Pashas, trusted converts that they would leave in their stead to continue the work of conversion and retribution in cities, domains, anywhere they could get a foothold in. These Pashas would lead the local members in the herald's stead, albeit in a more discreet way. Hunting apostates and converting were still on the menu, but it would be more precise. The Pashas would uphold secrecy and maintain operation within a domain, while heralds would only focus on uplifting thin bloods in diablerie of Ashira. The Pashas have taken a bit more of an open view and condone amaranth on any Cainite that would get in the way of our mission. Most of our operations dwell within domains of other sects, so creating a network of Pashas that would communicate with each other and the wandering heralds was crucial. Although communique has been very spotty due to the tightening reins of the Second Inquisition, it pains me to say that this has led many of the Pashas to impose their own interpretations of the laws of Hakeim, leading to misguidance in some cases. But growing pains are a part of the process, I suppose. There is no restriction of age to be a Pasha. As long as you command the laws, show reverence to Haqim, and impress the herald which would appoint you, you can command your very own flock. The only requirement, however, is to be of the blood, to be Assamite, to be Banu Haqim. Do you understand why operating in a more precise and discreet manner is so important? Pashas lead the local flock, and many are not much more potent than a neonate, unable to stand against the more aged kindred of other sects. But, with enough time and delivered retribution, even the fledgling Pashas can rise to the potency of their elders. The next step down from Pasha is a shepherd. This is your standing as a full-fledged Cainite coming into the fold. The shepherds make up the bulk of our membership, and as such take up most of the load in duties and executions of retribution. However, most shepherds will not act on their own, always guided by their Pashas and heralds, eagerly awaiting orders and relish in the next wave of judgments they will bring. Now, don't misunderstand, Cainite. Simply because you are of the main bulk of our group does not mean you are any less important. This is why the shepherds hold the title of shepherd. The title that represents the entirety of our group, the title that even UR-SHULGI himself held in ancient times as the Black Shepherd. The bulk of our membership is the most important. The head and the arms, the legs, all extremities cannot operate without a central foundation to be attached to, and that is what you are. You hold and bear the burden that is great and will usher in a new age for the blood. Wear that with pride. There is another denomination within the shepherds themselves. These are known as Fanatics. Many shepherds in good standing believe that the Fanatics are actually a step under the title of shepherd, but a lot of us believe that they are of the same ilk. They are shepherds. They just have a different way of doing things. The Fanatics are made up mostly of thin bloods who find their way to us of their own free will, thin bloods that are dispossessed, abused, persecuted in the domains, who have heard of our exploits and want a piece of that belonging, a piece of that power, and a piece of that oneness that only the laws of Hakeim and the path of blood can give. They come to us to aid us and to be with us. Myself, I believe that this is a gift, this is a blessing, that we should be so fortunate as to have those thin blood seek us out instead of us having to consistently try to find and convert them. But, as I stated, many feel a pang of that jealousy, that unforgivable trespass in which they were brought into the fold, and now these, some would say usurpers, would show up and take good standing on their own. But those misgivings are quelled fairly quickly when the Hashishin, which is another term that they call themselves, prove their worth to us. They are bold, headstrong, aggressive, and direct. They will walk into an Elysia, point out a kindred as a target, and later that same night, that same kindred will end up ash with their blood in the mouth of one of ours. Now this can cause a lot of issues, to be sure. Many Pashas like to operate discreetly, especially if they are trying to maintain a covert operation for a long game, as it were. And these Hashishin can put a wrench in those plans, to be sure. But many can be guided and useful if reined in properly. A good Pasha will be able to do this. But the Hashishin, these fanatics, they have interesting views. Tell me, Cainite, have you heard of the beckoning? Yes, that phenomenon in which elders and ancillae of potent blood have gone missing from their domains, have willingly left resources and assets being subverted of their own will to unknown places for unknown reasons. Yes, that phenomenon is believed to be, if you can believe it, UR-SHULGI himself. That is what the Hashishin believe. That UR-SHULGI is using some sort of ancient blood magic to bring these other Cainites to him so that he may exact judgment on his own. One cannot say why, but the Hashishin believe that the beckoning is UR-SHULGI's work, and as such, which is why they are so bold and headstrong, and as ferocious, with an appetite unequal in the act of the Amaranth. They wish to elevate their blood to greater heights so that they too may be able to hear the call of this beckoning. Because they believe that if they can hear it, then that is UR-SHULGI beckoning them to come to his side so that they may serve with him personally. That is a great honor to them, and so that is why they pursue judgment and retribution so fervently and ferociously, and that is something to be admired. I personally cannot tell you if this is a true thing. I cannot confirm whether this is truth. None of the heralds believe this to be the case. Any of the heralds that I've heard from that have had this topic brought up to them have never claimed that this was the case. But the Hashishin believe it. And, well, that headstrong belief is definitely a useful tool. Many Pashas have taken it upon themselves to allow these things to happen. As a matter of fact, they have their own special right when they feed off of the heart's blood of one of their targets. They have a phrase that they like to use. Sada imidu, ancient Sumerian for return to the mountain. A ritualistic approach to the judgment handed out to those unworthy of the blood. But as I said, the heralds have never endorsed this practice, but many Pashas have, and many shepherds who are not of the Hashishin have taken this up as well. So who knows if there is some merit to this. But I will tell you this, if the beckoning is the cause of some ancient blood, magic, or power, it is very likely that UR-SHULGI is one of the few powerful enough to do it.
Are you intrigued, Cainite? Do you feel like you have made the right decision?
Good. But I have to ask you, are you familiar with the laws of Haqim? Are you familiar with the tenets of the blood, of which we must abide? No? Well then, allow me to bless you with these teachings. Heed them well. The shepherds do not suffer false worship. The laws of Hakeim are 5 laws in total. These were tenets that he had established long ago in ancient times. These are the same laws that UR-SHULGI has made it a point to establish, to be our guiding light, to be our shepherd. The first is the law of leadership. Honor the eldest amongst you, for he is to rule in my house when I am absent. This law applies to UR-SHULGI. He is our eldest, and he is Hakeim's herald. Now, it is said that UR-SHULGI has claimed that he will not take the title of eldest, for that only belongs to Hakeim himself, but he does expect us to follow this law under his command. The next law is the law of protection. This one tends to get some people, but the law of protection: ward the mortals from Cain's descendants and treat them with honor in all things. This is to our benefit. We are not the Sabbat. We do not see mortals as nothing but cattle and animals to be fed and herded. We may be shepherds, but we are not shepherds of humanity. We are shepherds of our own convictions. When we ward mortals against other Cainites of this dark world, it is because they are to be respected, they are to be cherished. Every Cainite was once a mortal, and mortals are our lifeblood. That is how we sustain ourselves mostly. So we treat them accordingly. Also, making sure that the mortal populace of which we feed from is happy and stable also aids in our secrecy when we are operating in domains that are held by other sects. So while it may seem weird, the law of protection is one to be upheld greatly. Do not forget that. The law of destruction: slay not those of the blood, for that judgment is for the eldest alone. This one has evolved a bit to fit our paradigm within our shepherds. For us, those not of the blood are any apostates requiring judgment, and of course, other Cainites who transgress on our operations. The eldest, UR-SHULGI, has already proclaimed their judgment. So in this, the laws of destruction apply where they need apply, if you get my meaning. The law of the word: deceive not those of the blood, for my house is founded on truth. We are honest here, young Cainites. We must maintain a level of trust within ourselves, lest how could we serve if we cannot trust each other? The rest of the Cainite world is rife with backstabbing, Machiavellian schemes, plots, and their pathetic jihad, but us here, our vision is clear, our goals are true, and as long as we remain true with each other, we cannot fail. And finally, the law of judgment: judge those of Cain's blood and punish them should they be found wanting. At current, this applies to apostates as we reclaim their blood. And while the heralds have taken it upon themselves to uplift Thin Bloods by having them reclaim the blood of Ashira. Pashas dotting around the world have also started taking upon themselves to reclaim the blood of those that aren't necessarily of the blood. They have started judging other Canaanites and kindred that they deem worthy of punishment, those that have transgressed far greater than can be allowed, infernalists, other Canaanites that seek the amaranth for nothing but pleasure and addiction. The law judgment applies to all that we deem worthy of that judgment. If you should ever question yourself, always keep this in mind. These are the tenets of the Shepherds, the doctrine which we fervently follow. This is what it means to be a shepherd. Are you ready to heed that call? If the Camarilla, the Sabbat, the Anarchs, the Ashira, the Inkanu, all other sects of vampires that exist in this modern world, if they are not afraid of the blood in which we reclaim, if they do not think us a threat, well, they are in for horrors they could not possibly imagine.